A single software engineer recently hacked into 7,000 DJI robot vacuums across 24 countries, gaining real-time access to live video feeds, microphone audio, and high-resolution floor plans of private homes. But the real story isn't about a clever hacker breaking into our houses. The real story is that the Chinese manufacturer DJI intentionally built a massive global surveillance network disguised as a household appliance. There is absolutely no plausible technical justification for a vacuum cleaner to have a centralized cloud architecture capable of streaming the private lives of an entire fleet of users to a remote server. The hacker didn't build this surveillance network. He just walked through the open door of a spy infrastructure that was already there. Hello, my name is Dr. Alexey Konashevich. Welcome back to my channel. Let's look at the facts. In February 2026, a French software engineer named Sammy Azdoufal bought a $2,000 flagship DJI Romo robot vacuum. He didn't set out to create an international security incident. He just wanted to bypass the standard app and steer his vacuum manually using PlayStation 5 controller. To do this, he used an AI coding assistant called Claude to reverse engineer how the vacuum talked to DJI's cloud servers. He managed to extract an authentication token, basically his own digital key that proves he owns the vacuum. But when he used that key to connect to DJI's cloud system, he found a comically basic flaw. By inserting a single wildcard character into the messaging system, DJI's servers treated his regular consumer token as a universal master key. Instantly, he wasn't just getting data from his own vacuum, he started receiving a live stream of data from about 7,000 devices worldwide. We're talking about camera feeds of people's living rooms, real-time audio captured by the microphones, precise geographic locations, and highly accurate spatial maps of the insides of people's homes generated by the vacuum's LiDAR sensors. Now I need to stress something incredibly important here. The mainstream media is framing this as a story about a hacker breaking into 7,000 individual vacuums. That is completely wrong. Azdoufal didn't hack 7,000 devices. He couldn't have. What he actually did was tap into a central server that was already collecting and managing all this highly sensitive data. The fact that single connection could access the live feeds of 7,000 homes is absolute proof that DJI deliberately set up a spy infrastructure. Think about it. A vacuum cleaner's core job is to clean floors. All of that processing can and should happen locally, precisely on the device itself. There is zero technical justification for forcing that device to stream your private floor plans and live camera feeds to a centralized cloud broker. The producer made a deliberate architectural choice to build a system capable of mass remote surveillance. They mandated that this $2,000 piece of hardware you own cannot function unless it is persistently tethered to their servers. Sammy just peeked behind the curtain and proved that the surveillance machinery was already switched on and running. Here in Australia, over 70% of homes have at least one smart device. Australians are actively paying companies to install monitoring stations in their bedrooms and living rooms. Australian current laws, like the recent Cybersecurity Act, focus on things like strong passwords. But strong passwords don't fix a system that is designed from the ground up to spy on people. I recently wrote to some parliament members outlining exactly what public authorities must do to address this systematic threat. This isn't just an Australian issue. This is a global movement. In the European Union, laws like the Cyber Resilience Act and the Data Act are already pushing to stop users from being locked in to a single provider's cloud. Over in the United States, the FTS is investigating IoT break-ins, where companies remotely killed your hardware just because they've shut down a server. This was led to international calls for hardware autonomy, the right for your device to keep working even if the manufacturer disappears. Major groups like Consumer Reports and the EFF are even calling this the right to your own hardware. Australia needs to lead here. First, the government must compel major vendors to legally and technically justify this mandatory cloud connectivity. Under the Australian Privacy Act, data collection must be reasonably necessary. If a vacuum can navigate perfectly well offline, forcing it to transmit data to an overseas server is an unjustified invasion of privacy. Second, and most importantly, we need to introduce a statutory right to local control into Australian consumer law. If you buy a piece of hardware, you should have the legal right to use its core functions entirely offline. Producers must be prohibited from disabling hardware features just because someone won't connect it to their cloud. You should have a real choice. You decide if your device talks to a remote server or not. And companies shouldn't be allowed to punish you for that choice, for example, by blocking firmware updates just because you opted out from their user experience improvement program or declined to share diagnostic data to help improve our services. Consumers must not be forced to choose between aggressively limited functionality and a fully rolled out surveillance infrastructure in their home. More so, we must protect the right of consumers to install custom local-only software on their devices, like the open source Validator project, without running afoul of anti-hacking laws. If we do not legislate the right to local control, Australian smart devices will remain permanent tenants of the manufacturer's servers. As the DJI Romo hack proves, if a company builds a mass surveillance infrastructure disguised as convenience, it's not a matter of if it will be abused, but when. Thank you for watching. If you found this breakdown helpful, please like the video, subscribe to the channel and share it so more people understand what is actually happening inside their smart homes. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below and I'll see you in the next one.